What is the most important thing that artists need to know to work in the games industry? Like, what is required of games artists that you're not going to learn at Emily Carr or at an art, school or conservatory?
A thick skin and take critique.
Wow.
To be 100% honest, you've got to have a thick skin and you've got to be able to take critique. Even if that critique is borderline offensive, you've got to be able to take that, because you don't know what they're seeing in your art. I had an art director who was colorblind, and he kept on saying, your tunnels don't look good. Why? It's not blue enough. Okay, make it more blue. Right, okay, made it more blue. Kept on making it more blue, to the point where all the lights were blue.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, something's going on here. So we realized this guy was colorblind, but he's the art director, so you don't want to offend him. So we just tweaked some other things and just let it go.
Yeah, let it go.
But yeah.
Do you think that artists are kind of are underappreciated in the games industry?
I think some of them are. And I also think it's the artists themselves. It's like, how do you see your artwork? Do you appreciate what you are doing? Do you value what you're doing? When I teach, I have a couple of slides that I always show my students at the beginning of the course. And one quote is, repetition is the mother of skill. That's my first quote, and that's from Tony Robbins. I always say to students, the reason it's from Tony Robbins is he's been married 5 times, and I don't want to repeat what he's been doing, but you got to put in your 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Now that's for any skill. The second quote I have is from Earl Nightingale's Lead the Field, the book Lead the Field. And it's like, and the quote is, you are what you think about the most. So if you start off by saying, I'm not an artist, or I'm crap at art, or I'm crap at this, well, guess what? You will be. So I'm always saying, I'm good at this stuff. And I just keep pushing that. And we're talking a guy who went from the UK to Canada in less than, 6 months it took me to get over here. I was working for a AAA studio, working on AAA titles, and then, I got my permanent residence. Next thing I know, I'm a Canadian, And it's like, I would never have got that if I didn't think I could do it. So you've got to believe in yourself.
But the one thing that the game industry does not have in short supply is arrogance.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you temper that? Like, if you're saying, I'm good at this, you have this kind of positive thinking.
Yes.
At what point do you are you like, okay, I'm actually kind of overblowing it here?
I think that happens when you put your product out into the public space, because you're right, everybody is the perfect person and everything's great and I'm the greatest at this thing, until you put it out and someone you don't know critiques it. I always get excited when I put some artwork out there and someone downloads it and pays real money. I'm like, whoa, this is a person in some other country, I'd never seen them before, and they voted for me or voted for my product by giving me currency.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing okay, if you're lucky, they'll leave you some nice comments or some feedback. Or even if it's negative comments, I can say, oh, thank you. I can now correct what I've done and give you a free copy of the corrected version.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, when you work on a game, and you might think it's great, but when you put it out and the public reacts, that's the best test. And I've seen people who have been like, I'm the best thing since sliced bread and I can paint everything, and they put their game out, and if it's their level or their car or their character, and then you get Metacritic, it's like, yeah, that car on the 4th level really sucked, and you're like, oh, that's Jimmy's car.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh, poor Jimmy, he spent weeks on that thing.
It's the one thing,
and it's the one thing that they, So for me, it's I learned that way back when I started in '94. And it's hard, I'm not going to lie to you, when someone's telling you your work sucks, at any level, even now, when someone's saying your class sucked or your slides suck or your information, it hurts. But you've got to look at what they're telling you. Sometimes it might be personal. You can say, okay, well, that's personal.
Yeah.
Let's look at what I can take from that, and then you build on that and you make it better.
So what's the biggest difference or the biggest kind of transformation that happens when someone goes from, like, I want to make games, to, like, at what point do you as their teacher or just observer go like, okay, they actually could? Or oh, they do not have what it takes?
I think it's when they're willing to take the critique that I'm giving them. Right. And I really try and be diplomatic. Sometimes I won't be diplomatic because I'm actually not giving them the feedback in a timely fashion. Right. But what I try and do is I try and say, well, okay, you want to make this game and you've got a good design, let's look at this thing, and then let's do a quick demo of that, and then let's play the demo. Okay, the demo looks good, let's give it to your best friend, and we won't say anything. Yeah. We just hand them the controller or hand them the game on the tablet and just sit back and watch their reactions. Yeah. Because if you ask them, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. Yeah. If you just hand them the tablet and they're playing the game and you see them just not putting it down or smiling, that's a win. And yeah. I do that a lot for my own projects, and I've seen other students do that when they've taken that advice, and the reaction they have to their friends reacting is just golden. It's like you're seeing two people realize, oh, we can speak the same language, and it's a great thing to see. It really is.
Well, because it's funny, because art is one of the two pathways, I feel. So many people, and it's funny because you teach at VFS, so it's a game design program, but game design, being a dedicated game designer seems like one of the most difficult ways to actually get into the industry. If you want to fast track, become a programmer, become an artist, and yet it always seems like, I don't know, that the artists don't get quite the same level of respect as the programmers. At least it seems that way. From reviewers, from players, possibly even to executives. Is that accurate? Or?
I would say it's accurate. And I think what's happened is for a long, and this is not just for artists, but I think artists kind of showed this more in their personalities, that you'd always hear them, I just want to do the art, or I just want to do my art, or I just want to do the code, or I just want to do the design. And back in the 80s and 90s, you could do that because you know there was enough work for you to do that one thing. Now, because everything has become so much easier, you have to now think of your art as more than just the art that you're using in Photoshop or you're drawing on pencil and paper. Same like the code, you know. There's more that you have to do and more that you have to think about. You know, there's this thing called gameplay and story and, you know, development of your characters. And, you know, and as an artist, I found that the art itself, I still love doing the art, but I'll spend a lot of time looking at the story, looking at how I can get the gameplay and the game mechanics to enhance the story. And so that would mean that I might, if you say in a week I'm doing a level, I might do a day on art, maybe a day with the programmer, maybe 2 days just looking at gameplay, and then we might spend the rest of the week on game design and level design with some game designers and maybe some other artists, and we're just collaborating on it. And then it's what we have at the end of the week. Does it resonate as a complete package? Because it's no good if the code is great, but the art looks sucky. Yeah. It's no good if the art looks great, but the character can run through everything because the collisions aren't working. Right. And it's no good if the code is good and the art is good, but the level design means you're just running around an open field. Yeah, they all got to come together. And that means that as an artist, you might spend more time with the coders or with the designers and thinking like them. That's not a bad thing. You know, and you don't lose anything. You don't become lesser of an artist. You're not like your skills. I mean, I do not agree with this term that if you don't practice it, you lose it. Yes, you do have your skills kind of dulled a bit, but you just pick up a pen and start sketching it and it goes back up. You know, it's like riding a bike. If I haven't ridden a bike for a month, I'm pretty certain I can get back on a bike. Okay, I might not go fast, but you know, you can still get back on it. So you don't lose anything. At least I don't think you lose anything anyway. How
much do you have to restrain, or to what degree do you have to restrain yourself from critiquing the other people that you're working with? Like, you know, oh, that person is a bad producer, that person is a bad programmer.
Yes. When I was in the AAA studios, yes, you know, there's certain places where you can air those issues or those concerns. Now that I run my own studio, the buck really stops with me. I will cut a team if they're outsourcers, if they're not delivering on time or if they're not doing exactly what I'm asking for. And And I've even worked with other artists where I'm saying, like, I need you to make this character or make this level because I need to look at this paperwork over here. And I'll say, make this car, here's a demo car, here's some paperwork, follow the instructions. And they come back with something which looks like a scooter. And I'm like, that's not a car. What were you thinking? Well, we thought, no. We're indie. You know, it's like there's plenty of scope for you to do other things. You just have to do what we're going to get paid for first. And I basically realized that if you give them too much rope, they kind of flounder. So sometimes you just have to say, this specific thing gets done in the next 3 days, then this specific thing. And I think people respond to the boundaries. They like to know where they are. And all the other thinking is for me to do. So, you know, it's kind of, it is nice. It gives you a little bit more control over things.